Hey there, welcome to the REI Conversion Podcast, where each episode we discuss strategies and digital tools to help you launch, automate, and scale your real estate investing business. Learn how to run your investing business remotely, find out ways to automate your business to better utilize your time, and learn what other successful investors are implementing so you can get to the next step closer to your investing goals. And I'm your host and founder of REI Conversion, Jesse Kwong. Hey, how's it going? It's Jesse here from REI Conversion. I've got a special guest here with me today. He's an author of a book called Profit First for Real Estate Investors. Now, I actually follow this method for our own business as well, but this book dives much more deeper into profit first or being profitable as a real estate investor. Now, as usual, this podcast is brought to you by REI Conversion. If you are looking to streamline, to systemize, to simplify your land investing business, look no further than REI Pebble. We help you manage your mailing, your leads, tracking all your documents, tracking all your data. It is really bringing all your data for your land investing onto one platform, allowing you to be able to streamline everything, your operations, and to be able to scale at the end of the day. One of the cool new features we recently just launched is the REI Pebble lead forms. You'll be able to now create forms on Pebble, embed those forms on your own website. And when somebody comes in to submit their property, what is really cool now, it is making this a much more frictionless process so that when they type in their name, even their name, we can immediately pull up their property for them, show them their property, personalize that message, build that trust, and get them to submit their property at the end of the day, increasing that conversion rate. So if you're interested to learn more about REI Conversion and REI Pebble, go ahead and head over to reiconversion.com/Pebble. And then there's going to be a demo link that you can book a demo with myself. It is a one-on-one demo. I'd be more than happy to see if this is even a good fit for your business and sort of explain some of the features and some of the things that my team is doing to help other land investors. Other than that, I hope you enjoy this show and get tons of value out of this episode here with David. Cheers. Hey, how's it going, everybody? Today, I've got a special guest, an author of a book. I'm really excited to bring him on, David Richter. David, how are you doing today?
Really good. Thanks for having me on, Jesse. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, Ashley Jaron, a good friend of ours, also part of the RE Tipster podcast as well, has spoken about this a lot. He sort of he's been your personal cheerleader and wanted you on my show. So I'm super excited that he brought me your way. David, first of all, we're just gonna jump right into the things here. You've written a book here specifically for real estate investors. Can you tell us what the title of the book is, and really tell us sort of what is this book really all about?
Sure. So, Profit First for Real Estate Investing, that's the title of the book. And it's a book that I believe it's a foundational system where people are always entrepreneurs, real estate investors looking to buy their freedom, their time freedom, money freedom, any worries, they're just looking to get out of their own rat race. And I feel like there's a lot of good books out there that teach you how to make top line revenue, but not how to manage and keep the money. And this is not a tax book. This is nothing like that. This just deals with cash, like the actual cash, no matter if you're, wholesaling or if you're flipping or if you're doing land or whatever you're doing. This is to manage the cash that's flowing through your business. Rentals, it doesn't matter what you're doing. You're actively going to be managing your money no matter what. And I would rather you be armed with information and feeling in control rather than just shooting in the dark and, not having some basic, foundational skills on this subject that I don't feel like gets taught very much. But my background is real estate investing. I've been a part of over 851 deals to this point between wholesale, flips, turnkeys, lease options, rentals, some land deals, just everything in between. And so this is kind of my love letter back to the real estate world, because a lot of people have poured into me. And I feel like this book is the way that no matter if a downturn comes or if it's the great times or if it's whatever it is, this is a system to help the business owner never go out of business, number one, but then to always have the profits that he wants or she wants, and then always be able to have the business serve them instead of them feeling like they're just chained to their business all the time. So I could go into the nitty gritty of Profit First and what that is and that framework, but that's just the high level overview.
Yeah, let's hold that back for a second. I want to ask you, what led you to actually write this book? Like,
Yeah.
why this sort of title here?
So one of the things I was doing, I was working with a company where we took it from 5 deals a month to about 30 deals a month,
Yeah.
doing about 300 deals a year. And one of the many seats I sat in, because I was a utility man. I could go in, fix a process, go to the next seat. One of them was the finance seat because the finance person had left. And I got to see then, like from the beginning to end, how the money flowed. And even though we were doing 30 deals a month, and that sounds awesome, and like, man, you guys are killing it, or like the terminology we hear today, we were making like 6-7 figures a month sometimes, and then spending 6-7 figures a month. It's like now we just built a bigger rat race, a bigger wheel for ourselves. And it's like, what the heck is going on? So that was like my first light bulb moment of like, even though you can be doing a lot, doesn't mean you're making a lot and keeping a lot of it. And that was like the first introduction to it. Then I actually, after I worked there for about 5 years, I built my own little portfolio of properties, sold those, we moved across the country, me and my family, started working with another investor because I love real estate investing. And the first thing I said was like, if we're partnering up, like I got to see your books, like I got to know your numbers. So I dove in and they were a mess because the current bookkeepers weren't doing anything. Like they didn't know how to get him the numbers that he needed. And like book things. So I was like, okay, we got to fix this. I got to at least have the clarity because I knew the power that the numbers gave me from the last business, being able to see like doing 30 deals isn't that great if you're spending as much, as it takes to get it in here. So that's where we dove in, took a couple months there, cleaned it up. Then I saw the numbers clear as day, and he was in a good position, but he was like super under leveraged on his properties. He had a little portfolio of properties, and he was like 35% loan to value, meaning he had like 65% equity in his properties. And he's like, man, I didn't know I poured this much into my own deals. And so he refinanced out, got several $100,000 in his pocket. And he said, like, this has been life changing, like transformational, because now I feel in control because I know my numbers. I can make decisions. I'm more confident in where I am. Then he said also, like, this cash in my account has given me security. Like now I can go out and do what I want with this cash. Do I want to just hold on to it for a rainy day? Do I want to go invest it? Do I want to go and get another property? So that to me was like the light bulb moment of like, if this is life changing, like I've seen it now. I've seen that it works. So then I got the idea of starting a business. I actually have a fractional CFO service that like helps investors with their
Wow.
finances.
Sure.
So that's like what was born of that. But at the same time, I called a mentor of mine, Gary Harper, and said, hey, what do you think about starting a business to help real estate investors like I've helped this guy?
Yeah.
Because I just saw like the potential of how much it helped him. And my mentor said, yeah, you should, but have you read the book Profit First by Mike Michalowicz? And I
Yes.
said, no, I've never read that book. So I did. I downloaded it that day, took 10 pages of notes, finished it that night, and said, this is the framework. This is the framework to help entrepreneurs, real estate investors, my homies, like be able to keep more of the money that they
Yeah.
have. So that's what got me interested in Profit First. So then we started implementing that system along with our fractional CFO service as one of the steps to help manage the cash flow. That's where I saw it working over and over and over again with real estate investors. So then I went to Mike Michalowicz like a year later and said, hey, what do you think about writing a book for the real estate investing world? Would you be okay with me doing that because we're having success in the real estate world? And he was like, yes, like let's do that because there's a lot of nuances in real estate and it's
Yeah.
very roller coaster up and down
Yeah.
with cash. So I said he was like all for it. So that's what got me kicked off. It was really seeing some of my friends and mentors, colleagues like have their businesses transformed and then wanting to give back to the real estate community.
That's awesome. So for those of you who haven't read the Profit First book by Mike, and I can barely pronounce his last name, I'm
Michalowicz.
not going to butcher it here. So what is sort of the framework behind Profit
Yeah.
First? What is that? What is sort of the fundamental concepts here? If you can sort of summarize that for
There
us.
are two main points. There's the mindset and then the practical application. I'll go over the mindset first.
Yeah.
We've been fed as entrepreneurs or maybe by accountants, bookkeepers, or numbers people that the formula for business, and we're real estate investors, so we love our formulas, but it's sales minus expenses equals profit.
Yeah.
So meaning I make a sale, I spend and I, pay everyone else and their mother, and then
Yeah.
hopefully I have profit at the end of the day or the end of the year, or it's some event that happens sometime, that I get some payout. That's what we're hoping as the entrepreneur. But the profit first formula is sales minus profit equals expenses, meaning I make a sale, I transfer my profit first, and then what I have left over is to make sure that the business is healthy and growing and, like funding the actual expenses of the business. So that's where the big radical mindset shift in that formula. And that's the core of profit first. It's making sure you're profitable, and every deal, every interaction, every single sale that you do, every single rent check that you deposit, every single seller finance deal, whatever that you're doing, then you're profitable. But I also feel like we've heard that message though as real estate investors. If you've read Rich Dad Poor Dad, or if you've read like Richest Man in Babylon, or a lot of these famous books that they tout at masterminds, that they say like pay yourself first. Those books give that concept, or a portion of all I have is mine to keep, or whatever that is.
Right.
And that's why I feel like profit first, with the foundational core of it, takes it a step further to say, here's how you actually keep more of your money. I'm not talking about just saving on taxes. I'm not talking about just that. It's like, how do you actually manage your money to be able to have more money instead of just spending, and feeling like you're like overwhelmed all the time with your expenses. So that's the second part of profit first, is making that formula and making the pay yourself first message a reality. This is how you buy back your freedom. You don't buy your freedom by investing everything and hoping and praying that nothing horrible happens, so that way you can one day have this huge payout, and like just, that grind that you're doing all the time. No, there's a way to have your cake and eat it too, to be able to buy your freedom now and build a profitable business and make profit a habit inside of your business and not just some event. So that's the core of it. So there's the practical side too of how to do that. I could go into that, but I wanted to at least give you nothing else, that mindset up front.
Yes. In fact, I'd love you to sort of dive into that practical side of things. And your book does that much more in detail. But if my audience were to, if our listeners were to take away 3 or a couple things from this, where can they start?
Well, I give 3 steps in the book, but I'm going to give you just one step that has kind of some sub steps underneath of it, that if you do this from the podcast, you will start to see the effects immediately. So here we go. What do you do? The first thing I want to talk about though with this step is one of the biggest mistakes I see with real estate investors and how we manage our money, because I'm still a real estate investor, so I want myself in there when I was first starting, is we have one big bank account that we see, and where income comes in, expenses go out, and it's just a cash salad that you're just tossing all the time. Money comes in, money goes out. It's like you're rich one day, you have 100,000 in there because you just got some private lending, and then the next day your payroll hits and your marketing expenses hit and all this, and then you're down to $0, and you're like, where did all my money go? So that's where this is one of the biggest mistakes we see, because that leaves the entrepreneur, because let's just be honest here, entrepreneurs, real estate investors don't look at QuickBooks, they look at their bank accounts. That's just how we operate when it comes to our money and our cash. So I totally get it, totally get that. So how do we leverage that then? How do we leverage what we're already doing, looking at those bank accounts, to manage the cash that's flowing through our business and put us in control? So here's the big step is, I am also a fan of big epic sagas, big epic stories like Star Wars and Harry Potter. They've got like these 3 main heroes that are always pushing the story forward for good, like Luke, Han, Leia, making sure that good wins in the end. So your business, though, is your epic story. It's your epic saga. You are literally living it out right now because you chose to be a business owner. You wanted to be a part of that elite group. So what do you need? You need 3 main heroes. You need a golden trio, like they call that the golden trio in the movies. You need a golden trio of bank accounts for you, the business owner, to make sure you're winning in the end. So we can separate out that one instead of just having this one big account. So what are those 3 bank accounts? Number 1, a profit account, an actual profit account. Number 2, an owner's compensation account. And number 3, an owner's tax account. And I always get asked, what's the difference between the profit bank account and the owner's comp? Profit is something you take quarterly for the reward of having a successful business and running a cash profitable business. It's for the blood, sweat, and tears, for trading in the 40-hour work week for the 80 hours, working for yourself. And it's like making sure you feel Like the business is actually giving you what you wanted, not just what you needed, but what you wanted. So that profit account is something you draw from quarterly, where the owner's compensation is if you're in the business working day to day, you should be paying yourself. This account fulfills the pay yourself first principle of making sure that you're paying yourself consistently. Can you give yourself a monthly salary or a bi-weekly, or like, can you give yourself at least something consistently throughout the year so that way you're being compensated for the work you do? That's the owner's compensation. It's basically however you take your salary, W-2 or distributions or whatnot. The owner's tax, that's all about not having to scramble at the end of the year where it's tax time. Woohoo, here we got to pay our taxes. Let me go sell 3 more deals right now just to cover this bill, or like let me be put on a payment plan for the next 50 years, to be able to cover this. So that's saving for throughout the year the taxes. Because if you just have one account, all that stuff in there that is really your money gets mixed in and you start spending it. You start stealing from yourself. You start stealing from yourself and you have no idea you're stealing the tax money, or you're stealing your own paycheck, or you're stealing your own profit. And it's like you became a business owner to be profitable. So this is how we separate that out so you can actually see it. So open up that golden trio, then open up their sidekick. The one account that I call the income account, it's a control account. Basically, all deposits go in there and wait until you have that sale. Then you transfer the money out of that account into those other accounts. Now you're telling your money where to go instead of having that one account and the cash salad just be going zap, 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 out of that one account all the time. So you transfer from that income account to those other ones. The fifth account is what you already have open. It's the operational expense account, or your OPEX account, where you pay your actual expenses. That is the core of if you could get those bank accounts set up to start separating out your money, and from every deal going forward, just putting some money in each of those accounts. Now, I could go in depth with like percentages and how you set that up, but just getting in the habit of setting up first, this is going to take you the most amount of time. So I'm going to tell you right now, biggest objection is like, that sounds like a lot of bank accounts and a lot of time. Number one, if you don't want to do that many, just set up one account, the profit account, and transfer 1%. If you don't get anything from this podcast, at least set up one account to separate out your profit from your company. So that way you at least have some cash profit, and you could say, I remember listening to David on that podcast, and now I've actually got a profit account and it's growing. So I want you to at least do that. But then the other point is, after you set it up, after you get the bank account set up, it's just transferring the money. Whenever you have a sale, it takes you 5 minutes to transfer the money. I mean, this is not some big cumbersome system that just is like, oh man, now I got to figure out all this. No, it's the money comes in, you transfer it out, you're done until the next sale. So that's just how you manage the cash, how you start to grow your profit, your cash profit, not some fictitious number that someone's telling you at the end of the year, some CPA is like that you made, but actual cash in your account. So that's the core profit first, and the practical side of not having just one account with no control, but having it out, separated out, so you actually know you're not stealing from yourself.
When I first read the Profit First book, I was confused a bit. There's so many different accounts, and I think what you just said, David, here is making sure at least start with one account. That's actually what held me from moving forward, creating all these different sub accounts. It was just there was complexities being a Canadian and working in the States, and all these, currency exchange for myself and the business. But what really helped was sort of actually just mapping things out. I don't know if you suggest this or not, David, but what I've done for my team and my bookkeeper, I kind of drew up this map. It looks like a mind map. The holding account, then it goes into this war chest. This is profit. This is for taxes and whatnot. And I kept it simple, and I started to grow from there. We talk about this a lot with even just our saying integrating or setting up automations with a business. Is start small, start with that one account, because it can be a lot to digest from to kind of get things started. Now, I'm sure you've got a game plan in the book, and one of the things I wanted to ask you is what sort of the differences between your book, Profit First for Real Estate Investing, versus the other sort of Profit First. What are some of the nuances they can sort of expect in a book like yours?
Yeah. So I go into a couple different accounts that I highly recommend real estate investors specifically set up, like an OPM account, meaning other people's money. If you're getting private lenders bank institutional financing, hard money, whatever, money from your uncle, like to invest in your business, separating that out from your operational expenses and that profit. You don't want to be commingling all the stuff that you're doing for your business and to make sure it's running with the project money that someone gives you, or like if they're giving it to you for long-term money or whatever. So that way you're not commingling those funds, because you want to take care of you have a responsibility to make sure you're using those funds for the appropriate thing inside your business. So that's one thing. The other thing I talk about in this book heavily is I dedicate a whole chapter to it, is how reserves help grow your business. Like just getting over the mindset of I have to use every dollar in my business to grow the business, and it has to be out on the street or it has to be out of my accounts, or I feel like I'm not a true real estate investor. I'm not getting the returns. Where I go through some things, it's like number one, the mental clarity it gives you for having the reserves, because you don't have to live deal to deal. You are not living deal to deal anymore. Once you start building reserves, you don't have to feel like, oh shoot, like in order to cover payroll, I have to get this deal, even though it's a slim deal. And and making sure that you give yourself that space instead of operating from fear all the time. Now you can operate from a position of power. You feel more in control, and you feel like I have reserves. I don't have to take every single deal that comes across. I can take the ones that are going to get us to where I want us to go. So that's one huge thing. Another thing is private lenders, bank institutional financing, hard money lenders, whoever that's going to lend you money, like seeing reserves. So if you want to be a real estate investor who uses other people's money like 100% of investors do, then you need to have that set up to be able to have reserves, so that way they can see that you're a fiscally responsible business owner. Because a lot of the private lenders I work with, or hard money lenders, especially banks, want to see that you're taking care of what money's flowing through your company and that you're not just always running on fumes. So I mean, there's different ways that way. I also talk about in the book where it's also for hiring the right people. Like if you have reserves, how many times do we want to replace ourselves? How do you truly buy your freedom in your business? You hire amazing people. You get amazing people on the team with surrounding a common cause here, with the real estate investing company. And if you don't have those reserves, sometimes those right people come along and you can't pay them. And it's like, shoot, I just had this great introduction, this great talk with this person, and I can't move forward with them because I don't know how I'm going to pay them, or if I can't even get them started on like a base plus commission or something like that if it's a acquisitions manager. So having those reserves to really get you to where you want to be, because that's where most business owners want to be. They don't want to be in the day-to-day all the time. They want to have this freedom, and this is how. So it's just, I cover that heavily in the book, because I know that this is something that it's almost a sin, it feels like, for real estate investors to have money in an account. So I go through that heavily. Another big thing I go through too is just the cycle of the up and down roller coaster of cash, how to transfer the money, how to make sure that you're covered during lean times and during good times, what you're doing, how are you allocating during that and transferring money. So just a couple of the things that I talk about in the book.
Now, David, I'm not a money guy. I'm a creative guy. I'm a marketing guy. I'm not a money guy. Is this book for someone who is not good with money?
Great question. So far, I haven't talked about a financial statement, a profit and loss, a balance sheet, no accounting language. My background is not finance or accounting either. Like, my background is real estate investing. And that's why I wanted to write this book, because it spoke to me. I saw it work in real estate investing businesses, and I saw owners take ownership of this system and implement it and actually start running with it themselves. So this book is written from an entrepreneur to entrepreneurs in the language of entrepreneurs and real estate investors. So this is nothing to do. You won't find much in here about the profit and loss or balance sheet or whatnot. There's a little bit of that in one chapter, just if you want to brush up on that. But besides that, it's all about cash, how to manage it, how to grow the reserves, how to actually operate as a business owner, how to buy back your freedom, how to actually move to that next level and scale profitably if you want to do that. And it's built this book is for the real estate investor and not for an accountant, CPA, bookkeeper.
I love it. David, thank you for sort of sharing your sort of the mindset behind this, the framework, sort of what you talked about, the triage. What was it again? The accounts to open up, the three
The
things
golden
again.
trio. So
Yes.
the profit account, the owner's compensation, and the owner's tax account, the owner's income tax.
I love it. I love it. And David, if people want to find out more about your book, Profit First: Real Estate Investors, or for Real Estate Investors, where can they find that book at?
Sure. simplecfobook.com. simplecfobook.com, or you could go to our main webpage, simplecfosolutions.com, to learn more about us, and book is one of the tabs at the top, but it'll take you right to the book to be able to order it.
Awesome. David, I really appreciate you taking the time. I know you break a lot down in this book. We're super excited for it to come out. I definitely will be checking this one out. So again, we'll leave the link to your book in our show notes. And hopefully some of you guys can take action. I know that this is a very, very practical method or mindset to really making sure you end up being profitable at the end of the day, which is, like you said, why we all come into business
Right, exactly.
from the get-go. David, I appreciate you coming on the show, and thanks very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Jesse.
Before you stop this podcast or head to the next episode, I want to personally thank you for listening to this episode of the REI Conversion Podcast. If you found this helpful, we'd greatly appreciate an awesome review and rating on whichever platform you're listening to this on. And if you have 2 minutes and wanted to step it up even more and help others, feel free to share this in other Facebook groups or pages or any communities, giving others a heads up of the REI Conversion Podcast or this specific episode that may help them on their investing journey. Once again, thanks very much for listening, and catch you on our next episode.